videos 15, 16, and 17, we're going to focus on the valve body itself, several of the things that attach to it, including the solenoid pack and the accumulators.
So we got our transmission assembled, checked it all out, everything's good. Now we got to get to this valve body here, and this is the lifeblood of the transmission. Without a valve body or any kind of control mechanism like this, the transmission would just be a big paperweight. We're going to flip this over. As you can see, there is a bunch of screws. We're going to start by taking these out. They're Torx bits, they're T20. You just want to loosen them all. These bolts here, our solenoid block will fall off. We get them all out. All these screws are the same length. Anytime you take any valve body apart, pay attention to bolt length. This is our solenoid block, and this is actually labeled to give you an idea which circuit's which. You got your 2-4 clutch, low reverse solenoid, OD solenoid, and underdrive clutch solenoid. Set this aside. Kind of hold the lower valve body and the auxiliary body together. When everything comes out, we don't drop it. A little bit of fluid coming out. These things hide fluid. Auxiliary valve body is loose from the main body here. All of these screws are the same length. Separates our two tabs here. So we got our auxiliary valve body off, and this is the main channel casting piece. A little filter in there. Need to take another couple plates off to remove what they call the separator plate. These screws are shorter. We'll keep those together. And these are longer with this stiffening plate. Keep those with it. Now, just like assembling the transmission case and all its components, the valve body is just as complicated. You want to keep everything in order. Here's a separator plate. You can see all the little squiggly lines and stuff. Call that channel casting. This is where all the oil flows through to its respective circuit when needed. Now this all looks like a maze, and it pretty well does the same task. Oil gets directed through each one of these little passages called channel casting. There's a lot of them, and they each have their own name. Each of these channel castings has their own purpose. One circuit will flow for the underdrive clutch. One channel will be for overdrive clutch. This one is actually pickup from pump, filter into pump. So pump inlet, filter attaches to the bottom of that. Some of these circuits or these channel castings, they're just bare and open. Not all of them are used because it's just the way the casting is. But each one goes to a respective circuit. For to apply that clutch. Now the 41 CE, A604 or 42 RLE, for those of you who know transmissions, this valve body is a little different than, say, a 4L6CE or something to that nature. This transmission relies solely on solenoids to apply and release its clutches. It's logically controlled, it's electronic, it has to have this. If it doesn't have that electronic support, it's completely useless. It's not like a 700R4 or a 4L60 that can get by with no power to it. These require a lot of logic and solenoid modulation to achieve the task. Now here in the main, or the auxiliary valve body, we got a few locations at check balls. These aren't steel, they're kind of a rubber biting material. And we got new ones in our kit. We'll replace those. They kind of get beat up and flattened on spots. Now, you'll see a couple little cylindrical shaped areas in the valve body. There's a few things in here. You got pump pressure control. You got a couple spools that control converter lockup. And not necessarily control, but direct fluid. And really all this particular body does is just direct fluid. It doesn't really control much because this unit is controlled solely by pulse width modulated solenoids. I've kind of used an aerosol cleaner to get the grime off the separator plate. We're going to do a modification to it, or check it and do it. Sometimes, with this being an 09, it may already have that modification. Here's our Transgo shift kit we've gotten. It's for a 604, 41CE, 606, 42LE, and RLE, 89 to 09, 03 to 09. The 604, 606 front wheel drive or rear wheel drive, they're basically the same internals. So this kit works for all of them. You won't be using every step, but you will use the steps for your transmission. Now, you've seen when we assembled that case, we got a new gasket in the back for that low reverse clutch so it doesn't shrink. We've already done that step. Here's our shift kit instructions. This is for a wide variety of transmissions. They all have similar internals. These kits fix and repair minor factory issues that they've had through the years. Firms up shift feel and makes them last longer. Depending on which trans you have will depend on which set of instructions you use. They're all different. They pertain to specific areas. This particular page here, where it says drill this hole from 101 to 106, we're going to be doing that to our separator plate. Have our shift kit instructions here. Some of these in the instructions refer to just a 41 TE or an A604. Some of this also involves the 42 RLE, and you'll skip what you don't need and use what you need basically, and it's pretty thorough in how and what it needs you to do. We're going to be looking for a little hole right here in our separator plate to drill. So this here we're going to find on the separator plate, and it looks to be right there. So we're going to drill that hole bigger if we can. We're going to drill this hole with a drill bit supplied in the kit, but we're going to check, we're going to mic it to make sure it's within what they say. Not that I don't trust them, just want to make sure. And we're at 106, so it's the maximum allowed for this hole. Now we wanted to check this hole that we're planning on drilling to see if it's maybe already that size. Being in 09, it could already have had some update from the factory that they figured out, but it looks like they didn't, so we'll have to drill this hole. When we drill our hole, We want to make sure we don't get any kind of metal shavings in our the rest of our valve body or any other components. And then we're going to kind of smooth this down once we get the hole drilled. What I've done is just set the separator plate kind of on top of the valve body just to support it so we can drill it. And it's a pretty easy hole to drill. I didn't enlarge it that much. So now we'll get some emery cloth and clean that up. You just want to kind of deburr it a little bit. It doesn't have to be too fancy. It's flat. See, this side's still raised and a little rough. So we'll take our emery cloth and give that a good once over. And it's flat. Feels good. Now, holes being drilled such as this, just a couple thousandths can make a couple thousandths in hole diameter can make quite a bit of difference in shift feel or lubrication pressure. It just depends on what the hole's being drilled for, what circuit, what its purpose will be. But a small amount can change a lot. Here's the finished hole we just did. Now you see little hole. You'll see big holes, you'll see little slots cut, and then you'll see really tiny holes, and some even get smaller than that. Each hole has its purpose, and drilling the wrong hole or drilling a hole too big can have a pretty big effect. You see here there's 3 different diameter of holes. Tiny, there's a decent one, and a big one there. You have big slots. It's like a maze of hydraulic oil. And here on the auxiliary valve body, you see all these check balls that we showed you earlier. We're going to take those out so we can clean this valve body up. These aren't magnetic. Just get them out with your pick. Now, different years of this tranny have different valve bodies, or slightly different valve bodies, and slightly different amounts of check balls. So always put back in the amount of check balls that you removed, because an 09 will be this, and a 2010 will have 2 check balls. They change things a lot in the transmission industry. Next thing we want to do is remove this accumulator, which is similar to the ones in the case. It's spring loaded, so make sure you hang on. Don't get popped in the face. And you can see here the shift lever detent spring actually comes out with that. And it will go underneath this plate. Keep your screws together and just set it aside. Here's an accumulator spring, which we have an update for that once we get this cleaned out. Take your accumulator out, opened end. We'll have to change, we're going to change one scarf cut seal on it, kind of like we explained, or as you know, scarf cut seals we explained on the turbine shaft of the case over there. We're going to change one, and the kit calls for us to reuse one because we have special equipment or special fixes for these. But for now, we're going to set them aside. Take a few things off here. Unhook our electrical connections. You got to be gentle with these because you can break them on these little solenoids. Hopefully I don't do that. Pressure transducer wiring away. I'm just gonna take that Torx out. Lift this bulkhead connector and harness out of the way. Here's our gear range sensor, is what they would call it. This tells the ECU what range you selected. I'll have to remove this seal on the shaft to get that off. I have a new one. So this one can be a booger. It's a typical lip seal. This seal's a little difficult to get off because it's real thick and deep, so I'm just going to cut it. We got a new one. And that makes easy work of that. Of course, we have our new seal when the time comes. It'll be fun to put on. Can lift our range sensor off. Now on the range sensor, give you an idea of how that kind of works. We've got these little pins. They're just contact pins. And when this rooster comb moves, it connects at certain points. Now as this moves, the pins get contacted at certain points and get grounded and tell the ECU, hey, I'm in park, reverse, neutral, drive, manual low, second. And that's how this works in this particular transmission. Spring loaded, goes into the case, it's got a seal on it. And we're done with that for now. Here's the parking Pawl Pin that goes into the case and locks your car. Keeps it from rolling down a hill. The rooster comb just lifts right up out. The little pin it sets in. And your contact points. Now sometimes these get really wore down and they're grooved like this one, which isn't bad, but sometimes they'll get wore down to the point where they won't make contact on the pins on the sensor, and you'll get some electrical gremlins and possibly codes because it doesn't know what range it's in. Remove this pressure transducer. Which also secures another solenoid adjacent to it. Now they got O-rings that secure them. You just give them a wiggle and pull them out. You see there's little screens in these solenoids. It keeps them from getting plugged up and causing bad operation. Pressure transducer. This reads pressure and it will tell the ECU what current pressure is. You can actually go on your Snap-on Barris or your Matco or other scan tool that has the option, and you can see live pressure from these to give you aid in diagnostic. Keep these screws where they belong. Now this is that 2.4 accumulator we pulled out earlier, and here we got this little rubber seal. When we flip this valve body all back over and stick it in the case, this is what will seal up against that little hole in that 2.4 piston that we were putting air in the middle of the case. This is the part that applies that piston. We got a new seal for that too. We'll just dig this one out. It's not a fancy seal. And we'll discard it.